one thing that drives me up the wall more than anything is when I make this plan. If anybody knows me, I plan things out meticulously, to the second. If I go out with friends or we have this trip planned, I like to plan out everything to the minute. At this time we're going to do this, at this time we're going to do this, at this time we're going to do this, and so on and so on. When things don't fall into place the way I want them to, whether by my fault, somebody else's, or just nobody's fault, just happens, it drives me up the wall. I start thinking, I spent so much time doing this. How could I have done it better? What did I do wrong? And all of this stuff starts going through my head. I get really, really bad anxiety from that. So, anxiety is defined as distress or uneasiness of the mind caused by fear of danger or misfortune. So, not many things give me anxiety, but looking into the future, thinking, okay, what is my plan for my life? What is God's plan for my life? Do they match up? Are they the same thing? At this point, probably not. I'm 17. I know where I'm going to college. I know what I want to do. I have no idea past that. So anybody else who's going to college can tell you the exact same thing. I know where I want to go. I don't know anything else. It's kind of part of it being a teenager. So, like I said, when I plan things out, I have this plan of what I want my life to be like. I have this plan of how I would love it to be. I'd love to go to college, graduate with honors, get into a great medical school, graduate, top of my class, which may or may not happen, I don't know. I'd love for that to happen, doesn't mean it will. And I'd love to get a great job at a great hospital and become this awesome doctor that everybody knows my name and all this. I'd love to have a great family and have 3 beautiful children and all of this. I have this whole plan for my life, and I have no idea how it's going to end up being, because God has a plan for me. I have no idea what that is. I kind of know where He wants my next step to be. I feel very called to Mississippi College. That's about all I know from His end of things. So, like I said, one of the things that gives me anxiety is just thinking about the future. It also makes me really, really mad when I think about the fact, and I know this for a fact, that my plan isn't going to line up with God's plan in the end. And I'm not always going to want to say yes to God. Things happen, things come up where we have a choice put in front of us. You can do A or B. And sometimes you want to do A because it's the easy thing, or it's what you want to do, or it matches your plan. But God wants you to pick B for whatever reason, whatever that is. So that has, in my mind, it's always kind of made me mad thinking, I want to do what I want to do because I know what's best for me, right? Everybody knows in the back of their mind, no, God knows what's best. God's got a plan. It's all going to turn out great, fine and dandy and all this. Just with me, I like to be able to plan out my own stuff the way I want to do it. So what happens when we all make a plan? I want my life to be like this, and then God has this plan, and the two of them don't line up exactly. They don't exactly fit. Sometimes we get mad about it because we know if I pick this, it'll be great, but if I pick this, it'll be even better because God wants me to do it, but I really don't want to. So we get mad, and we get frustrated, and we lash out at people that we love. Our friends say, hey Jennifer, how you doing? And I say, what's the matter with you? I'm having a bad day, don't talk to me. I just get all mad, and I lash out at people, and I say things I don't mean, which is not how we should react. So Philippians 4, 6 through 7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. So, what this says, what I've always gotten out of this, is it tells us don't be anxious when things don't go your way. It's going to happen. It's okay. Give it all to God. You'll be fine. Most of us tend to freak out about it anyway. And like I said, I get anxiety from it, but it also makes me really, really mad. And so we're told, don't be mad about it, just go with it, it's going to be okay, sit down, talk to God, we're supposed to react calmly. How often does that actually happen? It happens very rarely with me, and sometimes it happens like this.
Oh, I didn't know that we did.
Well, now.
In a moment. Oh.
So what happened?
The smooth transition we did right here.
Oh yeah, it's great.
So that's how I roll.
thank God you're all right.
God, yeah, let's thank God, shall we? For his blessings are raining down upon me. Wait, that's not rain!
Bruce, please don't do that, honey. You know that everything happens for a reason.
That I don't need. That is a cliche. That is not helpful to me. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I have no bird. I have no bush. God has taken my bird and my bush.
Oh, I see. So God is picking on you? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's ignoring me completely. He's far too busy giving Evan everything he wants. Oh, that's great, Sam. But you missed your target. I'm over here.
Hey, Matt, the dog. It's not the dog's fault.
No, it's God's fault. I gave him the wrong coordinates.
All right, you just stop being such a martyr.
I am not being a martyr. I'm a victim. God is a mean kid sitting on an anthill with a magnifying glass, and I'm the ant. He could fix my life in 5 minutes if he wanted to, but he'd rather burn off my feelers and watch me squirm.
All right, sweetheart, I know that you're mad. It's completely understandable. What Evan did is slimy and wrong. But this day could have been so much worse. I'm just glad you're okay.
Okay? Newsflash. I'm not okay. I'm not okay with a mediocre job. I'm not okay with a mediocre apartment. I'm not okay with a mediocre life.
Okay, maybe we don't react in quite that extreme, but okay, who here has seen Bruce Almighty? Alright, so for those of you who don't know, the storyline is Bruce is a newscaster, and he has just had practically the worst day of his life. He thought he was going to get this big promotion, and this other guy who he hates, who's always been a jerk to Bruce, doesn't deserve it, gets the promotion, of course. And he got in a car wreck, and all this other stuff happened. It's been this awful, awful day. And he had this plan that this day was going to go perfectly. He's going to get the promotion, going to have a great day, going to take his girlfriend out to dinner, and it was going to be awesome. None of that happened. So that's about how I feel when I plan something out and it doesn't pan out the way I want it to. And so, like, an example of that for me, I guess, is, okay, so for this spring break, me and 4 of my best friends have been planning to go to Destin with one of my friend's moms. We have a beach house there, and it's free because she got there her dad's company and all this. We've been planning this for almost 2 years. Since sophomore year, we've been so excited about this, and we've been talking about it for months, like leading up to this. We're planning, okay, I'm taking this outfit, taking these snacks, we're sitting in this way in the car, and we'll shuffle in these directions. We had this planned down to the second. We were so ready. And then we went on ski trip. Like, as most of you know, during my volleyball season, I tore some ligaments in my ankle, and it's been bothering me a little. So over ski trip, that was a lot of fun. I always say it was completely worth it, but it started to act up again, and skiing kind of made something shift in my ankle. So we went to see the doctor about it because it was hurting me a lot more and a lot more often than normally. I'm used to it by this point, but now it's a lot. So we went to see the doctor about it, and he told me, okay, you can do physical therapy twice a week for a month, and then if nothing improves, and he kind of gave me this look like it might help a little, but then he goes, you're going to need surgery. So he said, you'll be out of school for about a week, and then you'll be in a splint for a week, boot 6 to 8 weeks. So at this point, we're thinking, okay, let's get this done before I go to college, so I'm not in the middle of college in a place I don't really know that well, in classes and with teachers I don't know that well, and then just take me out of it for a week, and then I have to catch up. So we're trying to get this done before I go off to college, get it all healed up and everything, which means that the only time I can do it is either the week before or the week of spring break, meaning no beach trip for Jen. So there's 2 years of planning down the toilet. Lots of fun, right? And like I said, this is one of the things that flies all over me. So I'm sitting here talking to my mom saying, okay, we can do it this day, we can do it this day, maybe this day. She says, no, it's your senior year, you cannot miss a week of school, you've got to keep your grades up just for this amount of time, and then you can graduate. And all of this, okay. So, pretty much how this has all gone down is this means I will not be going on a beach trip. I will be wearing a boot to prom, which is doable but not ideal, of course, because I already have these really cute shoes, which of course now I can't wear. So, boot for prom. I'll be in a walking boot for 6 to 8 weeks, which is going to make field trips a lot harder, because for senior class in physics, we get to go to Six Flags for Physics Day, which is great, because they close off the park to everybody except physics classes, which means like us and 4 other schools get to run around the park for a whole day, which is great. So I'm going to be hobbling around on that. So this doesn't seem like a big deal to some people, like, oh, it's just a walking boot, at least you're up and around. It's just kind of annoying to me because I had this whole plan set out. My senior year is going to be fabulous. It's going to be great. Best year of high school. That is not true at all. So far, senior year has been stressful. It's been hard to keep up grades because I decided to pick hard classes this year. It's been stressful looking at colleges and scholarships and all of this stuff, which every one of you will deal with if you're not already. And it's not fun. But at the end of it, you get to go to college, you get to be on your own, and I'm sure it'll be great. I'll let you know when I get there. So, one thing that I've been told countless times over and over is God's got a plan. Everything happens for a reason. I've gotten to the point where I'm almost sick of hearing it. I know it in the back of my mind. I know it to be true. But you kind of get to that point where you look at someone who tells you that and say, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. I want you to sit there and be quiet and let me rant. That's all we really want from a friend at that point, right? So, the Bible says in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So God has this whole plan set out for me. He knows where I'm going to go to college for sure. He knows who I'm going to room with. He knows what degree I'm going to get. If I'm going to go to medical school, if I'm going to end up doing nursing or something else. He knows if I'm, for whatever reason, going to drop out of college. I hope not, but he has this whole plan set up, and he knows exactly where he wants me and how he's going to use me in that situation. And as most people know, and as a lot of people know from experience, God tends to work in very, very mysterious ways. You may have had the worst day of your life, but somewhere in there, God has influenced either you or someone around you, which will then create a ripple, and it'll affect so many more people. In the worst of times, God seems to bring out the best in people. He seems to take that moment and use it for the rest of your life to influence you, to then influence other people. And you never know when that moment is going to be. For example, think about Joseph, right? He was his dad's favorite son, and he's out and about loving life. He loves all of his brothers. He loves his family. He has a great life. And then his brothers say, "We hate you," and sold him to slave drivers, right? They just threw him in a pit and then sold him off. So imagine this. You're out loving life, maybe out with friends or something, and your sibling or siblings comes up to you, throws you in a big hole, and then sells you to people you don't even know to then be owned by someone else as a slave. And you have no choice in the matter. So there you go, great day, right? So God took this moment in Joseph's life. He took this time when his own family turned on him and sold him away to be taken to a different country. And he spent all of these years in slavery, then in prison, then in servitude, and eventually he became second only to the Pharaoh himself. So he went from the bottom of the food chain, politically, all the way to the very second league. The way the Egyptians worshipped their Pharaoh, he was a god to them. He was basically God to the Egyptians. And Joseph became right under God, basically, to the Egyptians and all of this. So God took the worst day of Joseph's life ever and put him somewhere where he influenced everyone under him, which was all but one person. And he used Joseph to save all of Egypt and then Joseph's family from famine, right? So if you take anything from this, just think. If somebody's having the worst day of their life, if you're having the worst day of your life, just sit for a moment, take a breath, and think, there may be a plan in this. There may be a higher calling somewhere where someday down the line, you're going to look back and say, that was an awful time in my life, but I am so glad it happened, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I am now. Just think about that when you're having a bad day or something awful happens to you. Just think about that one day, God is going to use this, and he's going to show you something that you never would have noticed, and he's going to do things through you that you never could have done by yourself because of this one awful incident. Pastor Richard always talks to us about God's big story and how each of us has a little story, and God has this big, big picture where everything is woven together perfectly, right? So when bad things happen in the world, we think that's part of God's plan. This is God's plan for me, for this awful, awful thing to happen to me. Like a parent dies, or a friend dies, or someone dies, or someone has to leave or move away. Your best friend leaves, you never see them again. Something awful happens to you like that. And you sit there and think, this is God's plan for me. This is what he wants. Is he punishing me? Did I do something? Did somebody else do something? Is it someone's fault? That's all we want to sit and think about, is who to blame in this case. So like Bruce was blaming God, saying he's this big mean kid sitting up there with a magnifying glass, and I'm the ant. He's burning me, and he just wants to see me squirm and be in pain. That is not at all what God is like. In these situations, we end up acting like the little children, right? Throwing a temper tantrum. But what God does is he puts us in these situations to help us to grow. He puts us in these hard, hard times to help us mature as Christians and as his children and as people in that sense. So the next time that you're having an awful, awful day and you think, is God punishing me? Why is this happening? What did I do to deserve this? Granted, some things may be repercussions or results of something that you've done, but more than likely, it's just life. Life happens. It just does. Bad things happen to good people. We can't explain it, but you just got to know that somewhere in there, God has planned something where he's going to use this and use you to then help somebody else. So if you see someone going through a hard time, they probably don't want to hear that God's planning all this and that this is part of God's plan and he's going to use this. They probably don't want to hear it, but you've got to tell them anyway. Tell them in a way that's not going to make them mad at you, granted, but they just need to know that God is not punishing them for something awful that they've done, and that one day this is all going to be better and everything's going to be great again. We're going to have great days and we're going to have bad days. But if everything was just in the middle, when would any day be special, right? So what's the point? If nothing is bad, then nothing's good. There's no contrast. So, like I said before, we all have this plan of what we want to do through our life. I want to go to Mississippi College. I have a roommate, I have a room, I have everything planned out, everything as I want it. More than likely, as God has shown me throughout my own life and others, a lot of that isn't going to pan out perfectly. I was hoping for some things to happen, and they haven't. And we're just going to see how it goes. And I'm going to do my best to try to go along with God's plan, no matter how much I don't like it. And I suggest you all do the same, because eventually you're going to end up in this perfect, perfect place. You're going to be with God someday. Everything will make sense. And you'll look back and you'll tell yourself, I'm so glad that that happened to me, because if it hadn't, I wouldn't have this life now. So, I'm going to pray for y'all, and then we'll go to small groups, all right?
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if there's anybody else who's about ready to go home.
I just wanna go where I'm only breathing your air. Father, hear my prayer, take me